Welcome to First Down by Coach Tools, where you hear from successful coaches and the top minds in sports, with host Justin Tichenell. First Down is brought to you by Coach Tools, the football player grading software that's better and faster. Today's episode is with Phillip Russ. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Thanks for this opportunity to come on here this morning and talk a little ball.
Coach Russ is in his 13th year as a football coach, in his first year as a head coach. So to officially get things started, Coach, can you just share with the audience a little bit about your background and how you've ultimately gotten involved in your current role at East Rutherford?
Yeah, I pretty much got jumped into coaching. I played Division II football at Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina. Kind of got injured. I was given an opportunity, a selection of two different schools to kind of jump in and get my feet wet in coaching. My first staff was given a tremendous role, especially as a rookie coach. I'd been around coaching my whole life. My dad was our middle school offensive coordinator. I kind of got jumped in as a defensive line coach, special teams coordinator at Salisbury High School. So jumped in there, kind of got my feet wet, we won a conference, won a regional, and won the state championship in my first year of coaching. Then I kind of branched out, went to West Lincoln High School, was there, started at the defensive side, ended up making my way over to assistant offensive coordinating duties, as well as a JV head coach there. Wanted to kind of continue my flow, went to Jack Britt to take another step up the ladder. Was down in Fayetteville, North Carolina at a 4A school. And then the first ever head coaching opportunity came, and it came in the form of baseball. So I came back to closer to home to Bessemer City High School, coached baseball there as a head coach for 4 years, but then also got to join back and coach the offensive line there at Bessemer City. Then I moved to Florida for 2 years, was a head coach and also a coordinator there at St. Lucie West Centennial 9A school, and then moved to my current position here at East Rutherford High School. Spent a year as defensive coordinator, then interim head coach, and then obviously got named this past season the official head coach. So it's kind of like a quick run through, of my coaching map, I guess you would say.
Sure. And I also saw on your profile you're the athletic director as well as the head coach. So can you talk about that experience and how you balance both significant roles?
Well, it was really a good thing, honestly, coming in at East Rutherford as the defense coordinator straight out, because, taking on AD and I think a head coaching role, what it allowed me to do as an athletic director was I was able to get my feet wet in all sports. I mean, I went to my first ever swim meet, tennis match. I was announcing soccer matches, going to cross country events and things like that. And it was able to kind of develop our brand. The one thing was about our school is there were certain programs that were way above everybody else, like our women's basketball, our girls softball, our baseball teams. They had a culture of winning. So I kind of got to get around those cultures inside that community and see what winning looked like. Because, everywhere you go, winning's different. So being an athletic director, developing that camaraderie with coaches was key in transitioning into my football role as the head coach, only because, yes, the day in, day out part of the job, the budget, the purchasing of items, the leadership, the professional development setups for your coaches is one thing. But for me as a coach and knowing that I could potentially take that role as head football coach, I was able to build key relationships so that when I was recruiting kids, when I was trying to get kids in the building to come out and take on football, I could talk to their coaches and their coaches had some rapport with me. And so that helped me develop and build our roster. Because, see, a lot of folks don't really know our backdrop. They just see the production of our football team and they're like, wow, great job in your first year. When I first came to East Rutherford, our football program was on the mend. We had 13 players that were JV varsity when I first came to East Rutherford. They had a coach go out. They had a bunch of kids transfer to local teams. So we actually, my first year at East Rutherford was something new to me and new to everybody. We were JV only. So we didn't even have a varsity football team. We had no seniors in the program. We literally had 2 juniors and 11 freshmen. So we built back from that. And so that's why the recruiting piece was key for me being AD. Like, I was shopping my own hallways. I was going through, if you had a frame, if you could chew bubblegum walk and not trip over your feet, come out and give football a chance. We were basically in the band room recruiting band members saying, hey, like you can play a halftime show, but you can play 4 quarters. It'd be a great experience. So, you know, embodying that experience, it developed me as a better head coach, having that athletic director role beforehand. And then now as the head football coach, I utilize my AD role to kind of get around kids and kind of build relationships. I'm all about relationships. So being able to have that association with those kids and their accessory sports is huge for me.
Definitely. And I think when you were saying, it's all about relationships, it comes down to effective communication. So what are some key things or pieces of advice you'd give out to maybe the coaches that are watching that are in both kind of roles, or just a head coach or just an athletic director?
Well, I'll tell you, like in a lot of things that I've spoken, whether I've spoken to a youth group, I've actually spoken to men's groups at churches, and when I even talk to my coaches, I try to tell them that the biggest thing is we've all mostly had something tie us to sport to get us into coaching. People don't just wake up one day and have no association with a sport and say, "Hey, I want to coach." So what I try to tell people is think back to the most influential coaches that were hands-on for you and what that feel like. And basically it comes down to this, and it's something that I've basically sold out to. It's you have to be relational and not transactional. You have to build relationships and you got to build it around love. Like, that's a really tough thing to say, especially for men in our profession, because they don't really want to walk around and say, "Hey, I love you. Hey, I love you." But if you listen, especially being an educator, there are kids that come to school that seek things that they may not get a lot at home, they may not go home to. And then there's just some kids that genuinely they just want to feel appreciated. I've always been told, especially as a young coach, is you need to get connected with your players to where if you tell them to do something and say, "Hey, run through that wall," that they'll run through that wall. And at first in my young coaching career, I started out and I was trying to be super tactical. I was trying to teach the technique, teach the drill, and say, "Hey, if you do this and believe in this, da 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 da." When I started my phase of transition to building relationships first and then teaching football second, uh, I noticed that, man, I got more out of my kids. And those moments when the game's on the line and you need to have that refocus moment or that key word to try to bring them in and be like, "Hey, dude, I love you. I appreciate you. Let's just go to war and do what we do every day." And none of it was coaching. It wasn't, "Hey, grab here, rip this, do this, shoot the gap, do it." It had nothing to do with football. And I've had more production from that because, like, at the end of the day, if a kid feels like you're utilizing their skill set for your greater good, they're going to know that this is completely transactional. Like after 4 years,
Right.
you're not going to be involved. If they're like, "Man, this coach like genuinely cares. Like he comes to my basketball games. He asked me about my wrestling matches. He comes to baseball. He's watched me run track. He's asked me about deer hunting. He's asked me about bass fishing. He asked me about my shoes, about my girlfriend, about my family. He genuinely cares about me as a person." Then I feel like it's that ROI on their end, the return of investment. Like he invested in me, so I'm never going to not give this dude uh, all I've got. Probably the second thing that I would tell coaches that I've learned throughout the year is there is not a job within a program that is bigger than you. As a head coach, I mow my field. I mean, I don't even let my staff wash laundry. I'm a real big believer in if you're not leading from the front and you're not grabbing the broom, if you're not grabbing the paint machine, if you're not setting up things, like I want my assistant coaches, and it's just a leadership mentality that I have about service to others. I just want them to feel like all I got to do is show up today and coach my position, love my kids, and give them my best. All that other stuff, they typically fall in, and they have fallen in with me because it's kind of the head coaches out there still doing it. I'm going to jump in. I've never been one to feel like it needs to be a dictatorship. It needs to be a leadership drain down the spectrum. Like I want to be hands on in the mud with my guys because it gets the most out of the program. And
Exactly.
probably like the last couple like little like nuggets is be accountable. If the coach tells you like the meeting starts at 5, try to get there early. Always take notes. I mean, throughout my career, the one thing that I picked up, and most coaches only do it at clinics, I do it in coaches meetings. If there's things that a coach says or there's little things that I want to pick up, like if you're a guy that's aspiring to try to get to the top level, you're trying to be that head coach, take the pros and cons after each season, what worked, what didn't work. Take your own notes, self reflect, and really spend time being analytical of yourself. Was there things that you coached better at the end of the year that you wish you would have done in August? Was there things that you started out doing and it was a bust and you're like, man, I don't ever want to do that again? Those type of things, keeping those notebooks over the years and looking at my notes, I've seen how I've transcended through my role as a coach and things that I've picked up even from my opponents. Is there things that they do special in warm-ups? Is there things that they post on their social media? What is things that they do that I can incorporate to try to enrich my program? It's not thievery in coaching. It's just
Right.
we build off each other and we use our toolbox and we share that at clinics and we share that at meetings to try to make sure that we're giving all these young people the best possible experience in football.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about is like you were saying at the end of the day, as coaches, our job is to give those kids the best possible situation, but also just teach them what life is all about because I talk about this a lot on the podcast, you know, and I think you can attest to this as well. But coaching is football and coaching as well, playing and coaching is a perfect microcosm for life in general because you're going to be hit with adversity and you're going to need to know how to overcome that. And you're going to need to know how to have attention to a detail, be punctual, really have a singular focus when you're working on something. So, that's why I love football and it's great, hearing guys like you talk about this. So, with that said, Coach, any last words that you want to share with the audience today?
Yeah, just I encourage all of you just to kind of, stay locked in, stay driven. There's things that we've experienced in terms of like COVID. Sports are important. It's the only thing that we have today that technology hasn't invaded to the point of taking away key characteristics. These kids get most of their social interactions, they get most of their relationship bonds. They get that family atmosphere from what we present in our meetings, in our practices, in our games, in our post games. A lot of what's teaching the youth of going out into the world comes from us. We are integral men of character, and you got to remember at the end of the day, the last thing that I'll leave is we are the master key to many doors. We will open doors to trade, we'll open doors to military, to jobs, to fatherhood, to husband. There's many roles that we influence, and with our influence and our power of influence, I think that every day we have a charge. We have a motivational charge to go out, be the best versions of us, so that we can take from our cup and pour into our future and to better our world and community.
Yes, sir. Gotta love it. Well, thank you again, Coach Russ. Really appreciate you sharing today, and best of luck this offseason.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.